Hello. Good afternoon. Welcome. Nice to meet you. I'm Mr. Fournier. Nice to meet you.
Hey, no,
Hi.
nice
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I'm Mr. Fournier. Mr. Ruka. Hi.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Hey, no,
Mr. Ruka. Mr. Fournier.
Hey,
Yeah.
welcome, Mr. Ruka.
Nice to meet you.
Good afternoon, welcome, Mr. Ruka.
Thank you. Shahin.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Yeah, thank you.
Perfect. How was the flight? Safe travels, journey went well? A very nice flight. We were first class, so
Very busy flight.
Yes.
absolutely. It was quite long. Yeah. Have you had anything to eat already? You had breakfast at the hotel?
Not
I didn't.
really.
Did you guys?
Not really.
Well, that's good because we have some refreshments here, so feel free to take anything you need. And
Coffee, tea. We have jarritas, local Mexican beverage. The Mandarin one is my favorite.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, fajitos as well, or?
jarritas.
Ah.
Very nice.
Have you already had a chance to try anything Mexican? Have you enjoyed the experience so far? Not local, but.
Except tequila, not that much.
maybe afterwards.
Yeah. After the negotiation.
Yeah, so you're the new team. Have you been doing negotiations beforehand, or this is your first negotiation with? This is the first negotiation with this factory, but we're indeed quite new to support supplier of the Mexican factory. So yeah, we're as excited I think as you guys are.
Yeah, we're happy to meet you.
Yeah.
Likewise.
Finally.
Absolutely. So if you want to go ahead, take some refreshments.
And then I think we can hop in the table.
Sounds good.
Yes.
Some tequilas. Everyone ready?
Yep.
Please take a seat. Thank you very much. Perfect. I think it's beneficial to start with introducing on our behalf and your behalf on what is your responsibility or the role that you're representing today. I can start. I'm Mr. Ruikka, so I'm responsible for the economical side, so for the wages and anything that has to do with money going through our factories.
Hi everyone. My name is Mr. Urho, and I'm responsible for the environmental side of things mostly, and also helping Mr. Suvia with the working conditions.
Yeah, so welcome again. I'm Mr. Suvia, and my responsibilities are human resources and working conditions.
Nice to meet you all.
Want to take it from there, sir?
Yes, I can introduce myself. So, my name is Shahin. I am basically looking into the work health and safety side of this.
My name is Noah Spierings. Nice to meet you all. It's very glad to be in Mexico with my team. I'm the Chief Operations Officer, so I'm responsible for the operations, including the ones in the factory, and together with my board representing us.
Yeah, nice to meet you. I'm really pleased to be here. I'm Ms. Gregorio and I'm the legal expert on the matter.
Hi everyone, I'm very pleased to be here to negotiate with you today. So I'm Mr. Fournier and I'm going to be the financial analyst today, so responsible of everything regarding numbers for our discussion.
Perfect. So welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I think we can all agree that we are looking towards a productive conversation, and as you know, this is a very important moment for our workers at the factory. As you know, we've set the agenda already. The past year has been a strong performance in terms of productivity. It rose a little over 12% last year, which doubled from the previous year and is actually 4 times higher than in the US at the moment. Unfortunately, at the same time, there are some serious concerns that need to be addressed. Our members are facing difficult working conditions, as you know, health and safety risks, and wages that have not kept pace with the rising cost of living. We do fully recognize the importance of the US Motors investments in Mexico and the benefits it brings to the region also. So not just only for the factory being addressed, but for the whole region. And we hope that we can work together towards a solution that reflects our shared interest in the long-term success for the workers and also the company and the community in the Mexican area. And I want to address that while we are here to listen and work constructively, I want to be clear that we are prepared to act to protect the health, safety, and dignity of our workforce. And should this process fail to produce any meaningful outcomes, we are prepared to act on behalf of those. So let's try and keep it as a cooperative conversation, but just to know that we will ensure that the health and safety measures of our workforce are met.
Okay, thanks for the warning signals, let's say, but I understand the precautions and the importance of this negotiation. On behalf of my team, I also want to confirm that we agree with the information that is provided for you guys from the survey, self-assessment, and that these are serious issues that we want to address and negotiate the terms of. So we, as a common ground, want to agree. We also truly think that we need to address these, and we are concerned for the employees in the factory in Mexico. So we agree on those terms. We're here to indeed have a productive session, come with terms that we could agree with. To give a bit more context, indeed, when we had our initial meeting, we already knew we are quite new to the board. So we're also looking a bit at the history, and we've noticed some history that has happened. We're here to bring a new slate. So for us, this is also very important to gather information and to see what we can do together, but also that we are reliant on the other board members and the stakeholders. So therefore, I would also like to tell that whatever final proposal we come up with, we have to discuss with our board as well, which is only fair, I think, to say as well. But I'm sure we can come to those terms.
Yeah, of course. It's great that you brought up history. I think this is a good starting point because in the past you've already made huge investments towards the factory and especially the equipment. And all the issues on the agenda, I think, are interlinked. So none of them is a one fixed issue that doesn't impact the others. And if we start just general working conditions, they have the great equipment, but they are left unused because of the working conditions, especially the heat, the noise that is above the legal limit. So there's a lot to improve in the working conditions. We would like to hear your side of things on that. You've already made huge investments into the equipment, but now it's being basically unused because of the working conditions, which leads to absenteeism. And I think that's the issue, mainly the absenteeism for you guys.
Well, I think it's good to need to, as a proposal of a structure, we do have an agenda, and I think those are good points. And I think on behalf of our team, we would like to hear your point of view, your concerns with all these topics. But since you're now asking me what our concerns are, what our issues are, in that sense is indeed the high absentee rate of 20%. We would like to gather more information on what the reasoning for this is, and also that the cost per units are still quite high, but I think that is something we can include in our talk. Also, we would like to note that it has been a self-survey, we believe, right, that the employees have filled in.
Yes.
Which we do not want to neglect at all, but we do want to make sure that we verify this information if really necessary. So just as a forehand signal that we don't disregard anything, but we would like to know for certain whether, for example, legal terms could be breached.
Did you say that the production costs per unit are higher?
Yeah.
Because the production cost in the Mexican production cost is still 6% lower than in the US.
Which is one of our concerns in the sense that, as you said, there is quite a significant difference in the order cost versus the US factory. So there is something underlying who could explain this such a small difference, and that's what we are trying to understand here. What are the other facts who could explain this difference, who in theory should be higher if we compare everything from US versus Mexico.
Yeah, there was something that compared to the level of how the productivity is better in Mexico, the thing we just discussed, the cost per unit it doesn't kind of correlate with it now. That's the
Exactly.
thing, right?
And that's what we want to
Yeah.
dig a bit deeper to
Yeah.
understand what could be the reason, because definitely, as you can understand, we need to run a profitable business to keep everyone employed and to have this running for many more years. And for this, we need to keep at the end our cost per unit within reasonable margin in order to sell to our international customers.
Yeah, that's completely understandable.
So those are our main things we want to talk about, and
Yeah.
we would love to hear your concerns regarding the topics.
Yeah, I think the improvement of the working conditions is essential to even keep the business running at all. Right now, these things, of course, they're from a survey, but they're easy to measure. Temperature, that's measurable. Also the noise, also air quality. Those are facts that we deal with.
Yeah, and of course we can check them, and yeah, like if you're concerned about the survey, then of course those can be checked. As Ivari said, they are measurable easily. So
Yeah, but I would like to explain, or you guys to represent the survey and the findings in there.
yeah. So what do you think we should start with?
I think the overall working conditions, the heat, also with the microparticles inside the factory, and the noise levels.
Yeah. So those are the three main things that are
interlinked with the actual working conditions for the employees that are standing there doing their job day in, day out.
Yeah.
And I think those three are interlinked and cannot be discussed separately.
Okay, so under the working condition, there are like three subsections regarding the air temperature
Yes.
and the pollution in the air
Yes.
and sound noise.
Yes.
So, what's your expectation on those?
Well, as in the, did we put it in the agenda? That,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, air conditioning installation to maintain a maximum workplace temperature of 30 degrees.
So it's 40 now.
Yeah.
Okay.
We would need it to be 30
Yes.
Okay.
in order to the workers to keep working because now when the temperature hits 40, they basically need to stop.
Yeah, it's inhospitable
Okay.
factory.
So, as a team, that we understand that the temperature, basically, if it is like the working condition,
Yeah.
working temperature, like it's directly related to the productivity and the production.
Yeah.
So we all agreed to like make it lower as expected as around 30 degree. So we will invest in this area, but we will do it in a phase. Like we have a plan of 2 years to implement the AC installation.
Okay.
In the phase one, like in the first year, we have planned to install the AC in the production areas. So that's the big concern for us.
Yeah.
And in the year two, in the phase two, we will install the AC in other areas.
Yeah.
So,
So money wise, would that be 5 and 5?
basically, the production area will require, I think, the more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other area, like the
Break
lunch
area,
area
yeah.
or office area, so that should be like less. So I think
Yeah.
60 to 40% ratio can be there.
Okay.
So initially we have planned to invest like 6 million in production in year one and 4 million in like year two.
Okay.
So how that sounds to you?
What's the reasoning behind doing it step by step? Because it's a really big and important issue.
Yes, but if we talk about the financial perspective, so we need to distribute the cost. So at a time we cannot afford that huge investment at a time. So it will help the company finance to redistribute the cost over the years.
I think it's also important to note that because
Yeah.
my colleague indeed said that we see a relation here regarding the temperature and the absency and the productivity of the factory. I would also like to measure and confirm that is actually helping. We do believe it would. We would like empirical evidence in that sense.
Thank you for the proposal, but I don't think improving the temperatures just in the production first and then in the other areas where the employees take their breaks So then they would be basically working in difficult conditions, and when they finally get a break, they would go into extreme heat. So I don't find this would actually help the productivity, because the only time the employees get to take a break is when they're outside of the productivity unit. So I see an issue there. And also, as the productivity already is comparably high to the US, I don't think it's fair to be blunt to tie it to the productivity. See if productivity actually rises if they have good working conditions, when they are still maintaining high productivity even under difficult conditions.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's
So,
non-negotiable.
what's the average temperature in Mexico?
Excuse me.
What's the average temperature in Mexico?
The average temperature
Yes.
in Mexico, it's over 40 degrees.
Yes, then the break and lunch is like they are more used to with that temperature, right? So
Well, probably yes, but
the working area where the workers are working for the production, and as per the report that whenever the temperature rises to 40 degrees, they cannot use the air muffle or so
That's
it like hinders them in the production, right?
yes.
So that's why our plan is to implement in the production area first, and as they are used to with this temperature, because all the workers are from the Mexico, so they can be like in a normal temperature in the lunch and other areas. So in the second year, we will like invest another 4 million in the office area.
Okay, I
Did you
think
get it?
yeah, I get it.
Yeah, we have to discuss about it.
Yeah, and we can talk about the other areas as well, and then we'll see how these are interconnected and
Okay.
what we get done. But so, what would you say about the air filtration system? We would need the machine that filters 85%,
Okay.
right?
Just before covering this, just
Yes.
to set a little bit the expectation here. So nothing that we are proposing is written in marble, and as you said, everything has a link in terms of one element impact another. But to be very clear, based on your first request that you sent us through the agenda,
Yeah.
what you're requesting is a full investment on 38 million in just 1 year. We need to state really clearly that this is not something that is going to be possible financially, and it's not something that we're going to be able to defend in front of the board. So if there is any element, just as we just covered the AC, that you feel that this is more priority for you and what we are offering is not exactly what we are expecting, we are definitely happy to compromise on one point, but then it means that on another point there's going to be
course.
to have
You
a
have
Yeah,
a
of
compromise.
course. Yes.
Yeah,
yes,
it makes sense.
Because
Makes sense.
we are agreeing with the full investment, that means 10 million, but in 2 years.
Yes.
We
Yeah.
are not like saying that we will not invest 4
Yeah,
million.
perfect.
Yeah.
And also, I think we established the ground a bit unclear. Also, we're not looking for initial one-time investments. They can be
Yeah, over the year,
separated
because
over the years.
it is a huge burden on the company.
Yes, of course, of
Yeah.
course. And also, the change takes time from our part, but still, we want to make sure that everything is going to be addressed. The temperature, because it's such a dominating area in the company, also in the break rooms, I wouldn't say that it would be, if it leaked out to the public, that we've only installed AC in the production unit, and then because the employees are used to the high temperatures, they will take their breaks in the high temperatures. I don't think that would also represent good publicity.
I think
For the
the
US
project is like
factories.
displayed all over the factory, like the project work. So there will be like phase and information, everything there. So they can understand that when there will be like when and where and how many AC will be installed. It's like phase by phase. So you can share the information with the workers. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, I think the working conditions in general is one of the top priorities for us.
Yes.
The most essential things.
And I think they are essential because of it's in the end it's the workers that make the cars, and if we keep going like this, it's not optimal, and so you know the work stops every now and then, and
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
so yeah,
Shall we continue? Because I think next to the air filtration system was another.
Yeah, I think air conditioning is like we have settled, agreed on.
Air filtration.
AC.
Oh, not the air filtration.
Air
Well,
conditioning?
nothing has been written down yet, and
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't think
yeah.
we
But
fully agree
with
that it will
with the
be.
initial discussion,
That's something we're gonna discuss on the break when we have it.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, we can have a break at some point and discuss and
Okay.
then come up with the proposal.
Okay. And also during the break, I suggest that you take time to look if you can bundle up the working conditions, not instead of 2 phases, just have them done simultaneously, because the factory, the production area, and the other areas, they are not separate units. They are still inside the same factory, and it affects the employee throughout the day.
yeah, and you should also consider about the finance.
Yes. Of
Let's,
course.
let's
Because if you
discuss the
ask
other
everything
topics.
at a time,
Mm.
you may get nothing.
Mm.
Something like
continue.
that.
Yes.
So
Let's continue now.
yeah, let's continue.
Yeah, of course, of course. But so, about the air filtration, we would need the machine that removes up to 85% of the microparticles in the air inside the factory. So how does that sound to you?
Yeah,
7
we
million.
are also concerned about this. We have your proposal, so we have already discussed within our team that this will cost us 7 million investment. So considering the effect and importance of this topic, we also agreed that we will do the investment full 7 million,
Yeah.
but in phases.
Yeah.
Like in year 1, we will implement those machines in the key zones, and in year 2, we will cover the rest of the area.
So key zones, yeah.
What does that mean is we want to try to cover in steps, and also measure that actually what we are implementing and investing is really improving the working condition.
Or not.
Because as you can know, you can invest in very nice equipment, but sometimes they are not exactly suited
Yeah,
to the
that's true.
to what's really needed. And once it's paid, and we cannot recover this cost. So that's why we want to phase this towards 2 years.
So you want to see the effects first
Yeah.
before.
In the zone 1, we will like see the results and evaluate the feasibility of these machines and everything. Then in the phase 2, we will implement the other area if the results are okay.
Yeah. So let's say you invest 3.5 the first year. That's half of the thing. It's just an example. So then it would remove up to half of the 85%.
There's like a maximum in the
No,
zone
no.
space.
In the zone, if we start implementing in zone 1, so we will separate this like the whole area in 2 zones. So we will implement in 1 zone, and we
One
will
clean
measure.
zone. One like a cleaner zone, and then.
No, not the cleaner zone. Like it's all over the factory, the air is the same.
Yeah.
Is there any difference?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, then we will divide this factory in 2 zones and implement in 1 zone and see the results and test the machines, and then implement in the second zone in the next year.
Oh, we're talking about things in the air.
Yeah.
They're gonna move.
I believe it's for the whole space in Europe.
Yeah, because
it is
yes.
for the whole
Yeah, I don't
space.
think we could divide the whole place in 2, but if it was done in phases, I think the air quality would go gradually up. Like
Yeah.
if let's say you put one machine, it's a bit
What
better,
is
and
like
then
the car area, production area, it's like surrounded by glass.
It's an extra
It's
cost.
the controlled environment. I think so. It's the controlled environment where you make the cars.
I think what's also interesting is because this is related to health, and
Yes.
I think that's also intertied with the absency rate. Is that
Yes.
correct?
That's one of the key things.
So, are you guys confident that if we invest in this, let's say for now, we might not agree to, but in phases, the full investment in 2 years, you would see improvement in the absency rates, or
Yeah.
a decrease actually?
yeah,
I
there
mean,
is- we are. I
Yeah,
think
that's-
we are very confident in general that improving these working conditions would decrease the absenteeism. The absenteeism. Yeah.
It's not easy to say if the air filtration system alone affects the absenteeism.
Yeah.
So that's why I want to make sure in the beginning that the air conditioning, soundproofing, and the air filtration, they are interlinked,
Yes.
which will obviously affect the employees that do long hours at the factory are exposed to the environment. So when we get those 3 settled out, I think that will affect the absenteeism. And also, while the absenteeism goes down and the machinery is worked because the temperature doesn't rise above 40, that will also increase the productivity of the factory. So the bigger picture here is that the environment is the most vital part for the absenteeism and also for the productivity. Yeah. So for our concerns and your concerns, I think these 3 are the main topics.
So you're suggesting for the air conditioning and air filtration, both same kind of approach, do it gradually, year by year. What about the soundproofing measures? Are you suggesting the same kind of approach?
Okay, for the soundproofing, like it's basically the problem in the production area. So in the first year, as we are implementing the AC, air conditioning, so the workers can use the air muffle. Yeah. So we are not investing in the first year with the soundproofing system. But after evaluating the first year's result, we may like decide to implement this soundproofing system. But we will. What do you think?
Yeah, exactly. The idea is once you in the production area, there is no more issue in terms of temperature, and then they can wear their noise system. We can commit on a small investment just for the break area, because definitely in break they would want to take out their equipment to relax, so we could have a small commitment there, but only the full implementation and really solving this issue would come in later years, because we cannot, as we said, afford to have everything done in year 1.
As the air muffle can serve the purpose of the production
for a certain amount of time.
I think there's also, sorry to interrupt you, but there's wearing the protection in heat isn't the only problem, but there's also communication between the workers. They can't do it when they're wearing the headphones. So I think we need to some kind of soundproofing.
Okay, so it's not basically with the
it's not only the heat.
workers' health or absenteeism. It's not related with that, as it is related with the communication, as you are mentioning.
Yeah.
So in the first year we don't have any plan to invest there, but let's see in the second year if we have like.
Is there a
improvements?
We're talking about decibel numbers here. Is there maybe a certain range where it would be possible to communicate? So we can consider that for when we do want to invest in this later on.
Yeah.
Do you have a certain number there?
Yeah, I think
yes, we do
so an estimation. It doesn't have to
estimation. I'd say it's around somewhere in the 70 to 80.
Yeah. Now it's 120.
Yeah.
Which is a lot, and the law actually is 90.
Yeah.
Okay. So if the law says 90, so Leah?
Yeah, we're willing to work on it. We just need to focus on the working condition, so for the health, and then the communication problem, which is a problem, will be dealt with in the second year.
Yeah, I understand like the financial perspective, but having it over 90, it's not an opinion or a financial decision. It's illegal to have it over. So
of course, but if you take into account our proposal to invest in all the working areas with the AC, which means that then they can wear their head protection, we then comply with the law. And then after, it's a question of comfort and a question of improvement, and you can see that we are committed to, on the long term, improve this. It's just that, as you know, this is a business, and indeed the worker produced the car, but this car need to be sold, and they need to be sold at a competitive price to keep continue this in the future. So we cannot say to the board we're gonna double the price of the cars to make our workers live in a different possible.
Yeah, it's both of our interest to keep the business going, of course, because we want our workers to keep their jobs.
And just to mention, in the agenda we asked for 75 decibels.
Yeah.
But now if we say that 90 is okay for us, so it's
we
also
will
a
go
big
by the
concession.
law.
for
below
So
90
maybe
or
discuss
90.
this
We
in
will go by the
break.
law.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because for now, we'll consider, I'll write it down.
Yeah.
We will consider indeed if 9 would be an option, but
Yeah,
things could come back to
I
that.
would like to add that you
Yeah.
ask like for 6 million, which will reach like 75 decibel, and we don't have the necessity to go that low. But we're willing to do a full investment in 2 years to reach the 75, which is much lower than the 90 that is required.
So if you invest half by half, but mathematically you would invest first 3 million, then it would decrease by half, and then 3 million second year, and then it would reach 75.
This would be more around 1 million only focusing on the break and rest area, because that's the area where the worker would really want to take their soundproofing out, and the rest would come in the second year. Because as we covered quickly with the other topics, you are also asking multiple millions in year one, and we need somehow to balance to have the amount per year. Even if we phase this out, it cannot be a phase of 30 million where year 1 to 2 million year 2
Yeah,
and 1
of course,
million. It needs to be spread out a bit more evenly so everyone can support the costs of this
I
investment.
think coming back to your request regarding the decibel limits, might be useful for us to know what out of these 3 subtopics for the topic workspace is the most important. And then we can reevaluate that in the break. So what is the most important?
Well, I think we see those 3 things as one.
As one, okay.
Yeah, mostly. And then we kind of, I think we discussed a lot of those things already, the working condition side. Before the break, do you have something to add?
Yeah, I think we should think of it from the perspective of what affects the workers the most, what affects the
Absolutely, yeah.
the production the most. I think it would be the temperature, because they need to completely stop when it's too hot.
Yes.
Yeah,
that would make sense in my opinion.
Yeah, but we'll discuss this
Yeah,
area
of
in
course.
general in the break. But
Of course, yeah.
That's all right. We can come back to this.
We can discuss other subject. Someone do you have? Mr. Röcker, do you have something?
Yeah.
You want to continue next another topic?
Or is there something that you would like to discuss next, or do you have something to ask? Or
We're happy to go over each topic one after one, more to understand your position, what is your priority, and after we can reevaluate where we are willing to invest. Because at the end, for what matters for us is, of course, to have workers happy, but to have an increase in production and to have a more efficient factory.
Yeah.
And at the end, this is a game of helping the workers, but this is also a game of numbers. So everything is communicating, and depending on what you value most for the workers, because we take you as the voice of the workers, then we can reevaluate, because for us, everything is about the efficiency, but the productivity and the cost.
Yeah, sounds good.
If we try to get over the wage discussion before the break, and then after the break we can focus on the
initial wage discussion.
I think we can take break to discuss the working condition and settle it, then the OS.
You want the break now?
We can take a break and settle the working condition discussion.
Okay.
And then we can move on to next topic.
May I suggest that before we go on a break, something for you to consider that we are not that willing to compromise on is the air conditioning. We wouldn't want it to be phased in 1 or 2, because I don't think it's justifiable to say that where the actual production and the money comes in for you guys is air conditioned, when our employees are taking a rest, it's okay for them to sit in heat just because they are used to it. Okay. So I would suggest that you discuss amongst yourselves how the board would feel like if the majority of the investment would come in the first year in their conditioning, air filtration, somewhere that it basically cannot be phased, in our opinion.
I think having a break now, when our side is only having demands, basically it must feel like it. We're only discussing what we want and not discussing other topics. Before the break, it might be a bit overwhelming for you.
Yeah.
Just on the break discussing demands and not seeing any compromise, because we haven't discussed about other things.
Yeah, I think we could go a bit further and then see that other things might be interconnected as well.
Yeah,
sure. Let's go
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, the working conditions sure is a lot to think about, but also thinking about how things are interlinked. Of course, the working conditions affect the amount of sick leaves, and we're requesting that it would increase from 10 to 20. Also, the wage gap between the Mexican work and the US work is quite high. And I'd like to start this conversation with that the cost of living adjustment, the wage increase, and the sick leaves. So again, 3 items. They are somewhat interlinked. I would suggest that we start discussing the cost of living adjustment and the wage increases that are linked to the sick leaves, so that we'd have a higher amount of sick leaves.
How it is linked to sick leave?
In a way that first we'd ask for more sick leave before all the air conditioning will affect the sick leaves.
Okay, that's
And
the
then when it goes
issue.
lower, if the sick leaves start going lower, then it goes off the table. So the 20 days of sick leave wouldn't be indefinitely. That would be interlinked with investments in the working conditions also.
Yeah, sick leave is like related to the working conditions, but how is it related to the wage increase and COLA?
Yeah, so it's interlinked with the wage increase. So I think we would be not asking the 20% right from the table, but as the absenteeism goes down, the wage increase would also go up.
I think Arnold.
Yeah, to cover, I think we have a slightly different vision around that, even if I fully understand what you mean by that. I think how we see this is if we make investments who are substantial, definitely, in the working conditions, so to make their daily life better, and potential investment in their wages, so better salary for them and their family, we expect then in exchange from the worker to, of course, maintain this high productivity growth that they have done in the past years, but as well to have a decrease in the absenteeism. And as you know, here we are going to have to make on our side, the US team, a lot of strong and numbers commitment. So we're going to have to expect also from the worker some numbers commitment and on not maybe, but some specific numbers commitment in terms of how much less are they going to be absent, how much more are they going to come to work. And if we see that after investing in wages and investing in the working condition, we can see that the workers are responding as well as coming more and calling less sick, then in a second manner, we are more than happy to, in exchange, give them a more sick leave and they have more flexibility for them. But we see this more as a two communicating valve in the sense that first is the daily condition and their salary. In exchange, we get more productive workers who are absent less, and then it comes back to us where we're happy to give them back some sick leave more. But it's not only one going from the other without giving back.
So you're suggesting a compromise from our side on the sick leave thing right now, for now?
Basically, what we are suggesting, without speaking of any numbers, is once we agreed on wages and on working condition in specific numbers, we said, okay, after a certain period of time, we can see that it helped them, and in exchange they came more to work. So we see an actual decrease in absenteeism data, and then if we can notice and show to the board as well that this is changing in the factory, then we can justify way more the fact that we give more sick leaves.
So it's like a reward.
It's a reward,
kind of. Yeah.
It's like incentive tools.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the way.
Give and take.
Yeah. But I understand the idea, what you're meaning behind it. Yeah.
It sounds reasonable.
Yeah. But the wages, of course, there's inflation. Not rising the wages at all basically means lowering them. What do you think about
3 to 5%.
yearly?
So in the wage, the way we thought this is, and this is a first idea that we are open to go more in details later, but it's to first give them indeed a 5% increase in year one. That's something we could commit on. Maintain this in year two, so 5% again. And this would be in exchange of at least maintaining last year productivity. So last year was at least 12.5%. So if for the next 2 years they agree every year to at least match these numbers, I think we could be willing to, in exchange, give, as I said, for the next 2 years.
Total 10% increase.
5%.
And
So the wage will increase only if the productivity stays as it is.
In the sense that, of course, for year one, the wage would increase. And the end of year one, we would check, okay, you can see the wage increase that much. And I can tell you
It's
this
like an
is,
extra 5%.
Yeah, this means a cost of 3.1 million for us more. If at the end of the year we saw that we invested 3.1 million in salary, and we also see at the end of the year that productivity reached 12%, then in year two they will get again this 5% in increase in wage. But if at the end of year one, instead of 12%, we see 0% or 1%, then we would consider some like this as we are not respecting our agreement, and then probably in year two there will not be any increase in salary.
Yeah.
How do we feel about tying into the productivity factor?
I think if it's tied to the productivity, it means that there should also be, if the productivity rises above that level, then the wage increase should also increase, not just 5%, but in adjacent to the productivity. So if our employees exceed the expectations of the productivity, then they would also get a higher raise in the salary, in the wages.
Yep.
So that we don't just set a limit that if they get to the same productivity levels, then they get this fixed amount of wage increase. There should be a minimum amount, but no maximum amount.
They are able to keep this current productivity level for the consecutive years, then like second year there will be an additional 5% with the first year's 5%.
What about if they exceed it?
If they exceed it, then we can set a ratio that how much increase in the ratio can increase in the salary.
We can work on numbers definitely on that. If the workers are ready to be very committed and go above and beyond, I think we can definitely work together.
Yeah, because we have a high trust in the employees when they have good working conditions. We have no reason to expect that the productivity would go lower.
Yeah. I think it's just
gonna keep on rising.
In these working conditions, they've managed to rise it well and be on a good level. So
I think that's well recognized.
If we get that sorted out, I think we'll.
Yeah, but also when discussing the wage increase, would that also include the cost of living adjustments? So that it would be a real wage increase that will not be eaten out by the inflation.
Yeah, because 5% is kind of like plus minus zero.
So can we agree that when we are discussing the wage increases, they are also tied to the cost of living adjustment? So when we are discussing that you will give 5% in the first year and 5% in the second year, they are tied to cost of living adjustment. So it will be 5% in the real.
Yep, we understand. We have plans for this also.
This is a communicating valve. So if we want to say that we want to package COLA as well in this deal, we are very happy to include COLA as well in this deal. But of course, higher you want the COLA to be and for a longer period, less after we can commit on wage increase, unless, as you said, I'm very happy to give 10% if we have 100% increase in productivity next year. But there is some limits in what the workers can achieve. So this is a question of the total package. But if instead of just a higher wage increase, you are more looking for a lower wage increase, but packaged with a COLA, as long as the total cost stays reasonable, I think that's something we are willing to work on.
Yeah, we get that. Is there something that we should still talk about before taking a break. Do you want to?
Yeah, I think we discussed, we see a perspective on the health and absenteeism, annual sick leave, kind of seeing it as a reward for good benefits, and I understand you're not wanting to commit to a 20% across the board wage increase right away, doing step by step. Yeah, we'll discuss about it. And of course the working conditions. Tying to the working conditions, I see the environmental responsibility in general. There's a lot of emissions, and we suggested the installation of a smokestack cleansing system to reduce the pollutants also. And that's
In the whole village? Or the
yeah,
town?
yeah, the community, because not only it's relevant to the community and the people are living really close to the village, and it's not a good press to have a lot of pollution coming outside of the factory as well.
So there's the smokestack, or the smoke cloud that's over the city, and also the wastewater thing. So what do you think about those? What's your take?
Okay.
Yeah, we're definitely willing to work on the environmental improvements. We're just wanting to know what's your biggest concern about this. What's your demands?
On the outside effect, or in general tying to the improvement of working conditions, or just the environmental?
It's more for the two outside effects you just mentioned. What are you expecting around that, just to understand a bit better your position?
We put it in.
Yeah, right now they're harming the environment, and it's mostly to keep the community happy, and also keep the company's name clean out of bad press, which would be really detrimental to the business in general. And also communities are a big thing, local communities in Mexico.
Yeah, so you're talking about bad press. What we can propose to you is maybe contract a third party to do an investigation on this subjects.
Yeah,
because especially for the waste treatment, it's not. We just arrived. We are very new about this topic. There's a lot of unclarity. I think my colleague just want to understand a bit better what's going on.
Yeah.
So about the demands we have, you asked me. So the wastewater connection and the necessary fixing of that and connecting it would be 10 million in case it's coming from the factory.
Yeah, okay.
As you were thinking. So
if the result of this investigation shows us that we are responsible for this alleged pollution, we will definitely be willing to work on that, and we will plan a 2-year phase for the 10 million investments. How does that sound?
okay, so as before, you would divide it in two, but do it completely in 2 years instead of one.
And in the condition that
if
it's
the
your
factory
fault.
is liable with the third party
Yeah.
investigation, if
Of
factory
course,
is liable, then
That seems like something we can think about.
Yeah, and then
reasonable.
there's also the installation of cleansing systems on the factory smokestacks. That would be 5 million to remove the pollutants from the city, or the air that goes into the city. What about that?
Yep, we have also
Would that be
plan
two years
for
and
this, because these
divided?
are related with the fines and everything from the government side.
Yeah.
So we have planned to decrease the production in phases again. So initially we have planned like around 20% decrease, then in the second year it will be like 50%, and in third year it will be like 100% reduction.
Because for the first year we will, so you're asking for 5 million?
Yeah.
For the first year we will do 1
1
million.
million, yeah.
And then the next 2 years we will do 2 million, so we can spread the cost, and for the first year we can like focus on working condition, and we will get to 100% of what you're asking.
Yeah, I get it. All right. Yeah, we'll think about that.
Do we have enough?
Nothing on the environment from my side.
Yeah,
I'm
I think
still
we're
thinking about wages here by myself and coming up with
of course, suggestions.
Maybe it's a good time to take a break.
Yeah,
I think
we
so
can
too.
take a break.
I agree, yes.
and do we agree on topics that we're gonna go through after the break that we're gonna discuss on the break? I think we should discuss after the break the working conditions,
Okay.
and then straight after that the wage talk.
Yeah, and including the thing we haven't discussed about the layoff guarantee tied up to the wage discussion as well.
Okay, so just to be sure if I understood correctly, we'll start first with the working condition, one by one, but as we all said, this is our package.
Yes.
We would then move to the wages and related to this, the sick leave and the layoff.
Guarantee.
And
yes.
finally, we will cover more in details everything about the external effect of the factories,
Yes.
so everything about smoke, stack, and waste treatment.
Yeah, and also for to consider your side of things for the wages, I suggest that we start the discussion with linking the wage increase to the productivity. So if productivity rises, the wage increase also rises. So that's something to discuss.
That means you are meaning that if it is exceed our target, then the ratio. Okay.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
there's
and
not-
if we don't reach the target, the wage increase with the
There
COLA
will
is
be no-
just only
Yes.
for the inflation. So
Yes.
that
Oh.
we can take an agreement.
Yeah, okay.
So let's take a break and continue after that one.
Sounds good.
Thank you for this half, and have a productive break.
Yeah, and of course, take some
Let's get some
refreshments to go.
I think we can stay here.
But 5 and 10 minutes, we are 51 minutes in. But like I said, don't hurry. Imagine that you have all day. But don't have all day with the break. I will show you like this when there's 20 minutes left, and that's when you should start wrapping up, prepare like lunch or something.
Okay.
And when I do this, then it's 10 minutes left.
Yeah,
So,
perfect.
and remember, when we stop the exercise, that can just be left for lunch. Doesn't mean that the negotiation stops.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Right, carry on, sir.
Suomeksi puhun.
We speak in English
Yeah,
or
we
in
can do it in
English?
English
Yeah.
because inside. I think after the break, the working conditions, especially the air conditioning, I don't think we can accept that they just improve the air conditioning in the production area
Yeah.
and leave the break area for the next year or so.
Yeah,
Because
a bit
that's
tough.
just
Yeah.
it's either it's bad publicity and it's just I think it's inhumane to say that you are used to it, you
Yeah.
need to still suffer from it.
Yeah, I think in
And they
general.
might not be used to 40 degrees.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think anyone
Yeah.
is.
Well,
You
well-
will find shade, you will be in shade and everything, but when you are stuck in a box
Yeah.
that's manufacturing cores,
Yeah, and also doing physical work.
work, when you
Yeah.
take a break, it cannot be over 40. So I don't think we don't want to and we can't accept to compromise so that the air conditioning will be a one-time thing. It will happen in the first year
Yeah.
before summer heat comes.
Yeah, I think
like blasting through the
improvement
windows.
on the working conditions are non-negotiable. In general, I mean, the air filtration system and air conditioning should be done immediately. In my opinion, I would do the soundproofing as well. Those would be the three things we'd stick to. I think.
Yeah, but I think it's really difficult to negotiate when they've basically given us everything phased. Everything is going to be
They're
phased.
pretty
So
much giving us everything we need, but
Yeah.
slower than we
yeah,
need.
it's lower.
Yeah.
But now I don't think we're not gonna give the opportunity to treat the employees like because you are used to it, you need to suffer.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's not a good.
Yeah.
I think.
It's I mean, like mentioned early on, we will act on it, and that is bad publicity for the US Motors. So we have that leverage to say if they are not meeting their conditioning before summer. So that will be a one-time investment.
And one leverage we also have left is the other car manufacturer that might be coming to the city.
Yeah, sure.
That's not final thing to
But
do. And also, I think
by tying these, because I understand their pressure from the board. They need to also meet some certain standards with the financials. The air conditioning and air filtration, those are basically non-negotiable.
Yeah.
The soundproofing, in my opinion, if it goes to the legal limit in the 90 in the first year, and then slowly in the next 2 or 3 years even, it will drop down to the 75 decibels.
Yeah,
I
getting
think that's
immediately to the
acceptable.
90,
Yeah.
that we can do.
Yeah.
Although it is harmful to be in over 85 decibels, if I remember correctly.
I'd start like trying
But
to
at
be
least
hard,
they
hard
will,
on
yeah,
with
but
that.
at least they will be able to use the ear muffles.
Yeah.
Even if it's difficult to communicate, they can work around that for the year or two. They can have some kind of a workaround on how to communicate. You don't always need to shout everything.
Yeah, and what do you think about the suggestion of they're doing an investigation on the environmental side outside the factory and then acting on it if the investigation is?
I think that's reasonable
Yeah.
because there's no confirmation that it's about the factory.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's straight from the factory.
Yeah,
and
they
I think it's good that they will offer to
Third party.
finance the investigation and then still act on it.
Yeah.
What about the 2-year phase thing in that they say?
I think if
or
it's
5 years in the second one. In the smokestack thing, it would be 5 years and 20% per year.
I think we should maybe find the third party like us agree on it as well, the party doing the investigation, and then trust their word. And then if the party who investigates it says that it has to be done immediately, both of us should respect it. Or if they're saying that, okay, this part of it could be done step by step, then we'd be fine with that as well. But whatever they say, it's trustworthy source, and both of us agree on their suggestion.
Yep.
Yeah, that's interesting. That could be.
Because that's like
just
if it's an environmental thing, professional party, they will know what to do and when, how soon. So if we can
come to that agreement.
That's a good idea in my opinion.
Yeah. And also, like, I think if we get the working condition things all done, like soundproofing at least to 90 right away, we could compromise on the annual sick leave, not ask for it.
Yeah.
And also the layoff guarantee is something, if we get all the improvement of working conditions, we could budge.
Yeah, just to recap from the start, first we'll go through the working conditions.
Yes.
And we are not budging in any direction on the air conditioning and the air filtration.
Yes.
Because it's inhumane to say, because you are used to basically live in shit, you should still live in shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so we are asking what we are asking here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
we are
like 1 year,
35%.
Yeah, before the next summer, I have no idea what is the current timeline now, but before next summer, the investments in air conditioning and the air filtration should be done. And they are not, they're not done in phases.
Yeah.
Not the production and then the break areas, because that's just not okay.
Yeah.
And then discussing the wages, there we can be flexible.
Yeah. And offer that.
Because we are asking 20% wage increase.
But tying it to the production.
And they want to tie it to the productivity. And I was thinking it could be something like
it could be up to
like in the first year, the wage increase is going to be 7% plus the COLA. So
what would the COLA be like?
It's based on inflation.
So 2 to 5.
Yeah, to 3 to 5. It's expected to go up, but to keep the wage increase to represent the real purchasing power, it should be tied to the COLA. So we'll start with 7%. And after the first year, if the productivity goes up, we come up with a ratio of, let's say, 0.75. So the next year, in year 2, the wage increase would be the productivity growth times 0.75. So if the productivity goes up 3%, then it would be 3 times 0.75.
Yeah.
3 times
2.25.
So that
2.25, and then also addressed to the inflation. So if inflation would be 4%, it would be 6% and 25. So then it would be tied to the productivity. And if the productivity doesn't go up, then the wage increase is just the inflation.
Can we, but if they're trying, of course, trying to negotiate, in the first year the 7% might seem a little rough to them. Should we have like a bottom line? COLA, of course, but like
Yeah, COLA is the bottom line. I don't
Yeah.
think we can.
But can we
also budge
accept-
on that one?
We can accept a roof of some kind, maybe, like a,
COLA for the first year. Can we accept just the COLA? Because, or do we want to try the production to the second year only, or because they suggested the 5% one for year one. If we stick there, we
Yeah,
say
but that
we
was
say
not-
that
that
we
was
say
the
that you
type
suggested
of
that we're fine with this. And for the second year, we're not expecting everything. After year one, we're tying everything to the performance. The COLA is the minimum, but depending on the performance, we'll go with that.
they said five now and 5 if the production rises.
Yeah, but we don't have to even guarantee 5 on the year 2. We can just
I'd like you to continue within about a minute.
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
yeah. So year 1,
So,
5, year 2.
How about first year 7% without the COLA, and after year 2 it's going to be productivity times the factor of 0.75.
Yeah.
Plus COLA.
Yeah.
So in the first year,
7 plus
it's
COLA.
gonna be 7 without the COLA,
Yeah.
and after the second year, just to keep the
Yeah, and then everything else.
Should I open
Maybe
my
you could get them.
So no layoff penalty, no.
Right, welcome back.
Yes.
Hey,
Hi guys.
welcome back.
Welcome back.
Hopefully your break was productive.
Absolutely.
Yep.
I have the same for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys have good coffee here. It's nice.
Yeah, really good.
Great weather.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, one of the best in the world.
Okay, we are back.
Yeah. So the first discuss about the working conditions.
Sure.
Unfortunately, we have agreed that we will not agree on doing them in phases because it is just inhumane to say that because someone is used to being in poor conditions, they can still be in poor conditions regarding the break areas. So we are expecting the working conditions regarding the air conditioning, air filtration to be before the start of next summer when the temperatures rise up massively. And I think you can also agree that it's not okay to say because you are used to being in a bad position, we can still keep you in a bad position.
Well, essentially, I understand your point is not keeping the bad position, of course, but I understand that the argument behind it might have come across a bit insensitive. I don't think those were the intentions. But we can understand your concern.
And tied to that, we are willing to flex in the wage increase area. So we are not expecting that to happen immediately and not as dramatically as we've requested, so that we can ensure that our employees have good working conditions. We would like to prioritize the investment there without the phases, just straight on as soon as possible before summer comes in and the temperatures go up.
Yeah.
And also regarding the soundproofing, we are willing to adjust that so that it will be the 90 decibels at first, so the legal limit, because it's by the law, and after that in phases as you please, so that we reach the level of 75. So there you have the possibility to adjust your investment so that it's also sustainably for the board and the investors that you need to respond to.
Yeah,
So from 90 to 70 decibels, the communication level will improve, and that's good for the production. So that's why it should be less than the legal limit.
Yeah.
That's what we
So
said.
just to recap the proposal, we are not willing to budge on the working conditions, except the sound levels, and we are willing to flex in the wage area more on that behalf.
Yeah.
Okay.
What do you think of this?
We fully understand your point of view, and we also aim here to improve the condition on the workers, and we hope that this is going to make their life better, and in exchange they're going to be able to be more productive and more happy at work. So it's definitely something we can hear, and I'm very happy to hear that this is something that can communicate with wages, because as you can expect at the end, this is all one amount of money, so definitely this is something we can listen to. What I can say to your proposal is we could, for example, commit on what you just said for condition and air filtration, and then in exchange, soundproofing would, for example, need to be phased on the 3-year phase.
Yep.
So as we said, only the rest area on year 1, for them to allow them to take their air protection off when they are not working. And after, the investment would be equally in year 2 and year 3. So we could speak about something around 1 million in year 1, 2.5 million in year 2, and 2.5 million in year 3. So by the end of year 3, we reach the perfect condition that you are expecting.
So in the first year, just to repeat, I understood correctly that in the first year, the sound level would still be, or after the first investment, the sound level would still be 120 in the production.
Indeed, but since they have their ear protection, then with the ear protection, what would arrive to the ear would be the 90 decibels, so we would match the limit. And then after, in year 2, with 2.5 million probably, we would be able to reach very close to the 90 limit. And finally, in year 3, with the last 2.5 million, they would be able to fully take off their system. And, anywhere, and it would be they could work freely in the factory without any protection or anything.
How would you feel if it were the 90 decibels right from the start, but then it would be in a 4 or 5 year increase to get to the level that we want? Because the 90 decibels across the factory is required by the law. So we would give more time span to reduce below the legal limit. But for the whole factory, it would also mean that it would be the 90 decibels straight from the start.
Yeah, and it's also safer for our employees, because if the factory gets shut down for whatever research or somebody is doing and it's illegal to be there, it's not good for us, it's not good for you. We're trying to do this to reach the legal limit, and we understand it comes with the cost to go down from the 90 to 75, and we're willing to compromise on that, but just to avoid any issues.
Yeah, exactly. The law thing is what concerns
the legal
me.
side is the
because also we need to answer to our workers that they would probably be disappointed in us if we couldn't make a contract that follows the law.
Yeah.
So they would be like, what are you doing in the negotiation table if you can, in a way that.
I think
I think it's possible to reach 90%, 19 decibels the first year, and then we would spread it out way more, as you suggested.
Yeah,
that sounds better, I think.
4 to 5 years. What do you think the time span would be? I think 5 years is the complete maximum.
We can definitely do that, but just to highlight the fact, so if we would need to reach 90 decibels, it would then mean to increase again the investment in year 1. And as we said, everything is communicating together. So please expect that once we cover point 2 and point 3 in wage and in external aspect, then we need to be clear in year 1 investment for sure are going to have to be lower. Because we cannot show a 50 million bill to
we understand since the wage discussion is going to be linked to the investment in the working conditions. So may I suggest that we now move to the wage discussion, and if we find a mutual agreement in the wages, then you fully agree on doing the investments in the working conditions for the air filtration and air conditioning if we get to a mutual understanding with the wages. And they will happen before the summer and the heat comes. There's no phases in the working conditions regarding the air filtration and air conditioning if we reach a mutual agreement in the wage discussion.
Yeah, let's do the wage thing first.
Yeah, because that's the area we are willing to go flexible on, so that you can justify this to your board and
sounds good.
So so on top of what Samu said, those two, and then the soundproofing thing could be that 90 until 90 decibels now, and then from 90 to 75 in 5 years or something, in a longer period. Okay.
Let's keep those terms for now. Let's
for now.
The wages. I first of all also want to say I like the commitment, and I appreciate that and admire it, that you guys really care about the workers and their safety and their health. I think that's admirable. Let's continue.
Yeah. So we understand that the productivity is crucial for you, so that you can justify the investments and see that the productivity actually rises. So that's why before taking the break, I suggested that the wage increase would be tied into the productivity. And from our side, we would agree on if in the first year the wage increase would be 7% without the cost of living adjustment, so disregarding the inflation. And the years after that, so year 2, year 3, year 4, the wage increase would be productivity percent times 0.75. So 0.75 would be the factor to be used plus cost of living adjustment. So after year 2, it would be tied to productivity times 0.75, and on top of that the cost of living adjustment, just to keep the wage increases to match the purchasing power.
For the year 1, because there are so many things going on, it's not fair to justify the productivity per se. But after that, like having the COLA as the base, and then for example, if the productivity rises by 3%, and then you multiply it by the factor 0.75.
So let me clear something.
Yeah.
So now, what is the productivity level?
12.5.
12.5%. So if you exceed 12.5% by a number, so it will be multiplied by 0.75.
Yeah, by the increase.
Yeah,
not the whole number. By the so it's a 3% increase, then it would be 2.25% on top of the COLA. Right. But if it's 0% increase, then it's just the COLA.
I think we understand that it would be nice to have a clause to have a limit to this increase. I think we cannot afford it.
Yeah, we also agree if it goes up by 100%, it's difficult to justify it.
There should be an upper cap.
Yeah.
And we were thinking that the like the rooftop would be at 12%.
12%.
So it keeps the workers motivated, and when there's money coming in for you, then you'll invest some of that money back to the workers, but you're not having to invest more before having the money, essentially.
So your increase will be maximum 9% after year 1. 12% into 0.75.
Yeah.
Maximum.
Yeah, and the cost of living adjustment.
Yeah.
And the cost of living adjustment.
So basically it depends on the inflation on that year. That cannot be predetermined. But we want to keep the inflation there so that the wage increase actually reflects how the workers have increased the productivity. And we feel this would be beneficial to also increase the productivity because it's an incentive for the workers to keep on pushing and doing better. And also while the productivity increases, you get more profits. It's easily justifiable to the board. And then when it's tied to the productivity, some of the profit, let's say, from the hard work goes back to the workers with the wage increase.
Okay, and if the productivity is not increased, the salary will not increase.
Yeah, only with the cost of living adjustment, so only with the rate of inflation.
So basically keeping it the same in practice.
Yeah.
Okay. So just to be clear, if I understood correctly, so in year 1 we would have no COLA, but 7% if they reach the same as last year, and if they do above the rate of last year, there will be a 0.75.
In the first year, it will be just 7%.
Yeah,
no
decrease,
year,
no decrease.
Not linked to anything. And after that one, because I don't think the productivity is going to increase on the same day that you install the air conditioning.
Yeah.
So that's why we don't want to link it so the wage increase doesn't go above 7% and there's no cost of living adjustment.
Or the increase in the first year could also be too big. Because
so that's why the first year it's just going to be 7%, but year after that it's going to be the increase in productivity times 0.75 plus the inflation, so the COLA.
I think we'll just have one issue with this in the sense that I understand what you mean by the fact that, of course, if air conditioning is installed in day 1, it doesn't mean that productivity is going to increase in day 1.
Mm-hmm.
But what you are requesting is basically in working condition 18.5 million investment. If we add this on top, a 7% increase without any condition, which is 7%, which is 4 million more. So we are speaking of more than 22 million of investment. Mm-hmm. If this is not linked to productivity increase, as you remember, the cost per unit in the US versus Mexico is only 6% lower. we are gonna basically have Mexican plants having a higher cost per unit than US plants. So the board is gonna start to ask even of like, what's the real meaning of us going in other countries and multiply our production if in our own country we could produce for the same cost.
Of course.
So that's a bit my concerns of not linking 7% with anything. And I understand that working conditions
Yep, of
are going
course.
to have an
And
impact.
this was just to open up the conversation. Feel free to discuss any ideas what you want to link the first year to.
Yes, so if the 7% is too much, what's your suggestion instead of first year? Because
I think it's more not only about the numbers, but it's about also linking it to
the productivity.
I was about to ask that. So you justified it with the cost per product. So do you have a number when they match the cost per unit, and so you said the wage increase we talked about would be too big because the cost per unit would be higher at that point in Mexico than the US. So do you know where they would match? Now we are lower, a bit lower. We would go higher, but where's the middle ground? Is it like you said in your first proposition, or?
It's I would need to provide more numbers for you to that. But
okay, but yeah, so you don't know it.
The thing is, indeed, as you can guess, 22 million investments and only a 6% gap linked to nothing is gonna for sure reduce this gap massively, and after you need to justify this difference.
So
now,
what he was like,
if the
might I suggest there would be a 4% stable increase in year one, and if they maintain the level of productivity, it would be 7%, which would be checked after the year has done and the productivity levels are in. So if the productivity is in the same level, if it's below, it's 4%, and if it's above, it's 7%. So in the first year, it wouldn't be linked to the exceeding productivity. Even if the productivity would go up 32%, it will still be 7%.
Yeah, so it
So
mitigates the
it
risk.
would be either 4 if the productivity doesn't stay the same level, or then it would be 7 if the productivity stays at least on the same level. And the second year, it will always be linked to the productivity with the ratio of 0.75, and on top of that, the cost of living adjustment, which is justified with the inflation to keep the wage increases as real value for the employees.
Then what I could counter offer to this is, in that sense, if we are saying that it's not possible to link year one to productivity, and we just want to keep our wage, and we're happy to keep our wage competitive versus the rest of the market in Mexico, but we cannot offer the best wage in Mexico, unfortunately, then in year one, we would commit on no fixed amount, but only the COLA, which means that then the salary would follow how the market evolves. So if there is a very high increase in cost of living for the workers, at least their purchasing capacity would not decrease. But if there is no increase in terms of the cost of living for them, then there would be no increase in year one, since we cannot link this to productivity.
So just to clarify, in the first year, it would just be the rate of inflation, so the cost of living adjustment. And after that second year, it would be also tied to the productivity times the ratio, and on top of that, the cost of living adjustment. So each year, it would at least raise with the inflation, if I understood correctly.
That's something we can work on.
Always the COLA from the second year on, also the productivity.
Did we decide on the percentage of the COLA already?
We cannot
know. It's based on inflation.
Like
The cost of living adjustment is straight linked to the inflation. But that's easily justifiable because if inflation goes up, that's why we want to keep the cost of living adjustment for the years on to come.
Now, just to finish on this topic, what's the reasoning around the 0.75 ratio for you to understand? Because, as you said, commitment, we need to commit on 18 million for environment. We're going to have the COLA, which is going to be an non-predictable costs but explainable. Now the board is going to want to understand as well why are we linking this to 0.75 and why do you think this is fair and not, for example, 0.5?
That's a good question. I think if it were just one-to-one, that would be just meaning that you wouldn't benefit anything from it. But since the employees are doing the hard work there, they would get their share of the productivity raise.
Which I totally get, that's the point of doing it. But what I'm concerned a little bit is just of having such a high ratio, because if, for example, the productivity would increase by 20%, with a 0.75 ratio, we are speaking at then a 15% increase.
No, but it's a
I
maximum.
can correct you. There is a 12% cap.
Yeah, we have 12% cap.
That means maximum 9% increase.
That's why there was the cap
Yeah.
of 12%.
So it keeps you motivated to invest more to employees, because employees wouldn't take.
Without it.
And
Exactly.
you know, productivity percentages, they don't usually go up super high, super low. So that's why it's tied to the 0.75. Let's say, for example, if it were 0.5, that would just be half and half, although the workers are doing the hard work.
Yeah, it's not as motivating.
So still, you get the cut from the productivity also from there.
Okay.
If you would agree on the COLA plus those increases and what we said,
the 12%.
Yeah. Would you agree on the improvement of working conditions, on the conditions we discussed before?
I am waiting for my financial analyst to see if it falls within our.
He's seeing the numbers.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, while he's typing that, we had also about the environmental things, the external environmental things. We had an idea about.
Could we discuss these after we've decided on the?
Yeah, of course.
Do you want to take a break for the calculations?
No.
We are approaching our
sure.
Lunch break in 10 minutes, so let's try to get as far as we can before that, and then see the rest after it. But so someone gonna tell the idea now.
Sure.
So we had an idea about we were talking about the investigation of the pollution, the water pollution.
Yeah.
So there's a third party that's going to investigate it, and we were thinking about that. You proposed a two-phase thing, right?
There was a two-phase thing,
and we proposed a one-phase thing in case it's you that's causing the company, the factory causing the wastewater thing. Then could we do it so that the third party decides how it should be treated, how it should be done, how quickly it should be fixed?
I think the third party will decide who is responsible. They are not taking the financial decision. The financial decision should be taken by the factory and the company. So what our concern is that in the first year we already have agreed like 18 million. So if you increase it like to 38 million, 40 million, then it will impact the other decisions.
Yeah, we understand that, but it's not necessarily a financial decision. We would come to terms who is the perfect third party to do it. Somebody we would both trust and just trust their vision. If they're saying it's not the company's fault, then nobody says anything. If they're saying this is something for the environment that we have to fix immediately one time, then it's something you would commit on doing, because it's something the professionals are saying to do. It's not a financial thing at that point, it's an environmental thing.
And you have to wait for the results.
And in the end, it's the thing
not
that...
a small projects, like gradual.
And in the end, the thing that would be done to fix the situation would be connecting the company to a wastewater thing. I don't know how it's practically possible to do that in phases. Do we partially connect it or something? But that's
like
just a suggestion.
Water pollution treatment, it's like a big project. So it basically we will start at a fast. There is nothing that we will start here and there later. No, but it takes phase by phase time to implement, like 1 year, 2 years.
Actually, we would create waste treatment for the water, and in the second year we will support the city facility systems. of the water. So that will be at a bigger range for the whole city as well.
First within the company, then within the community.
And that is why we would also seek maybe financial help from the city. So that would help financing and keeping the working condition.
Yeah, in the meantime, we will also talk to the city for the additional aiding.
And to be fully clear, I understand your point of saying once the responsibility is clear, we need to take action. We also need to understand that unfortunately our shareholders live very far from Mexico, and they also take into account the cost-wise of what is a PR risk and what is this kind of communication risk. And if they evaluate that the communication and the PR is going to be cheaper than this full investment once we know the responsibility, this is a call they can make. So we definitely cannot give the responsibility and the power on an external company to decide once responsibility is clear. This means action is going to be automatically triggered. It's not.
Of course, and if something that is environmentally something you have to do, they might also suggest that, okay, it's something you have to do, but there's no hurry, and then we would hear that as well and be like, okay, the professional said you can do it within 10 years, but we're more wiser when the assessment is done.
Yeah, or we can agree on based on the report and the results.
So I think we can leave this now on the side.
I think it's too early before the investigation has gone through.
So just to have you crank the numbers.
Maybe we have time for some final propositions before the lunch break, and then we can think about those.
I would prefer if we'd have the wage conversation done, because that will also affect the working conditions. If we find a mutual agreement for the wages, then you fully agree on the working conditions.
Then to summarize for the working condition, what we would say is for the next at least 2 years is for year one, we would only follow COLA to help our worker to not lose any purchasing power. And for year two, we would have COLA plus productivity wage increase linked to productivity, which would mean that if the productivity, for example, rise by 16%, then we would apply a 0.75 factor, which would mean an actual increase in salary of 12%, which is 7.5 million in terms of cost for us. This is something we are open to go for it, but in exchange as well in year three, at the end of year two, we would like to reopen this discussion in terms of is still COLA necessary in this environment, and because of course COLA is needed right now because there is the high impact of inflation, but how is the Mexican economy in 2 years? And same for this ratio, is this ratio of 75% still making sense? Is it the most efficient, or are we on our side happy to go higher because productivity is going so well and cost of production is reducing massively, or at the opposite, we didn't progress that much on productivity, that much on absentees, and that much on cost per unit, and then this ratio of 75 would have to be probably decreased. Is something that sounds good.
I think the time span of 3 years is too little. We can open this up in discussion after 5 years because markets are slow to transform. So I would suggest we open it up in discussion after 5 years, because productivity it can go up only as high it can go. It's going to stagnate at some point. So I think that for the 5 years, and there is still the 12% cap. So if productivity goes up 30%, you will still give a wage increase of a maximum of 12% plus the cost of living adjustment.
I can add one thing that what Arnold said, that in three years. So if we see it in 3 years, there is nothing to lose. If increase needed, then we will increase. If increase is not needed, then we will not increase. It's like
discussing after
win-win
3 years.
situation for both. It's whether it's 3 years or 5 years. But if it is 5 years and the inflation reduced in 3 years, then company will lose.
Exactly, because what you need to understand is the situation can evolve quickly in terms of the environment, and the company is reporting their financial on a quarterly basis. And if in our financial we need to show a cost that is for sure going to happen for the next 5 years, we cannot afford it.
I think we might have to still crank the numbers. If we have another break and then you calculate the numbers, we come up with a compromise maybe on our side, and then we'll discuss the thing on the wages again.
I think we are getting
I think we're pretty much
closer.
there. Yeah, like for the environment, I think we've got it figured out. We agreed before with the smoke, I believe.
Yeah, and for the working condition as well. So.
Yeah, as long as we get the numbers correct, and have a little break, and then we can finish.
Yeah, let's go eat some lunch now and return for the.
Yeah, we'll show a good restaurant.
That's right. Perfect. Stay seated, stay seated. Okay. Oh my goodness, you guys are pushing it.
Yeah, sorry for the other
One thing that the next time's host is that it was good stuff. So in that sense, but I do have to keep it to the 90-minute limits because of all kinds of scheduling. One thing to practice is to the reason that I say get wrapping up and checking early enough is because depending on the situation, sites can have a very different idea of where we are. What I think was good here is that, well, people can say in the reviews, but the good news is that you had quite efficient, so I feel like both sides did have a same idea. Not entirely sure, but you had a good conversation. That's the important thing. And for example, when you guys host the next one, that can be a very different type. There can be much more stuff in the air. Summarizing really clearly, where are we right now? Because in the next scenario, it'll be even less likely that you finish because the issues are so much bigger and different. They're very different and they're open-ended. But yeah, that's why we do have to stop at 90 minutes. But now I want to ask you the same thing. I do have to rush to the next situation. This will have to be a little bit quick, but I want to throw you the same question. You're done. You did the thing. What's your immediate sort of top of the head impressions now that you have that we still get on camera here?
I think we were discussing in good faith, although there were statements made that we are prepared to do action and take action and are really looking forward to the employees' well-being, but still it was all the conversations were in good communication and not too in a fighting mode per se.
Yeah, neither of us gave up too easily. I think we had a good competitive competition in a good way.
Yeah. What are thoughts and feelings on the American side?
No, I'm going to do the easy thing. No, I agree with this, and I think we definitely had the numbers, aim and goal, and the dependency of the board that we really played hard on. Hey, we can't just commit out of nowhere. I think that really created the push and pull game, which I thought was very interesting. I also think we came pretty far. We had effective discussions. I think it took its time, but considering everything, I think we did have some common ground a lot. I think, and also agreed on some terms. And it's only the numbers that were kind of preventing us from really moving and continuing further. But if that wasn't an obstacle, this would have.
Finance was the obstacle.
Yeah, and it's harder for you, I think, to be that part because it's humane to think that our things are good.
Yeah, that's right. We try to convey we understand there's empathy, but we have a certain limited dependency.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. You went third, so you did have the two previous groups to take a look at. And one thing that many reviewers agreed on was that positioning is always tough. So it's going to be interesting to see what the reviewers think about this third approach and see what's brought up. And then, of course, you have your impression right now, and then when you see the video, you will update, and it's going to be interesting to see what you think. I'm going to turn off the video now. You'll get emails. Any greetings for any really good student who watches this far?
Good job. Yeah.
Good job. Good job.
Yeah. Kudos.
You singular students who are still watching. All right.